Ready, ma'am? Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Russell County Board of Supervisors special call meeting at 3 p.m. in the Russell County Board room. I would like to first start off with the call of order and roll call. Tim Lovelace.
Here.
Carl Ray.
Here.
David Eaton.
Here.
Steve Breeding.
Here.
Rebecca Dye.
Here.
And Norris Christian.
Present.
And Luann Wallace.
Here.
Ma'am, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. At this time, I'll ask for the invocation, please. All rise.
Father God, Lord, we love you, we thank you, and we praise you today, Father. Father, we ask you to forgive us for where we fail you each and every day, and be with us during this time, Father. Father, thank you for allowing us to come out and be a part of our community, Father. For it's in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll have the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Dye. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll have our discussion on our new business. Mr. Lester, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of course, the only thing on the new business is, in most counties throughout the state of Virginia during these next couple of weeks, at which we just came from a luncheon with the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Virginia and the new Director of Virginia Economic Development Partnership. Of course, today is a special call meeting, as long as other counties, for consideration of the Russell County 22 tax rates. It's part of the process to develop our budget. As everyone knows, that we have went through 2 years of a pandemic, and we have also held on to our own during the time, but also now we've got other headwinds, financial headwinds that have occurred to us, and that is the rate of inflation. So first I'd like to start off with is in the public notice, as course, right now before the Board of Supervisors, the current rates for the real estate is 63 cents on the 100. And so is for mobile homes. Personal property is 195, machinery and tool, of course, by the Code of Virginia, has to match the personal property at 195, and of course, the merchant's capital tax is set 65 cents. So right now, during the last board meeting, the Board of Supervisors, due to the state of Virginia not having a complete budget, which we receive an enormous amount of federal and state funding for, that to plan a budget with, y'all passed a resolution to extend the tax date until June the 29th of 2022, which is the last day by Code of Virginia that we have to have the budget approved. So I hope and sincerely hope that the state of Virginia General Assembly gets it together by that time. All counties in the state of Virginia, from Fairfax to Arlington, all the way down to Russell County, is waiting on the same thing. So, of course, each side is posturing on its own, but they have work to do, and so do we. So, in the resolution, so here is what I'm going to be presenting to today in a slideshow. You have seen a similar version of it before, and this is the things that, of course, that we'll be looking at during the FY 22 and 23. Now, what the board has to remember, some of these issues will go also into 23, 24. It's based off the state budget. This is a biennium budget. So the numbers that is tied to the federal pass-through and the state pass-through and support also is in a biennium role, so that what numbers we look at today or consider this FYI will also lead into the other. So, as you can see, let me get this and I apologize. So that way we're talking. Of course, in this year's FY 22-23 budget planning issues, again, I had emphasized in the previous board meetings, these are issues that not created by the Russell County Board of Supervisors or Russell County departments or Russell County spending. These are issues that were implemented by the state that we have to follow and implement by the code. So, of course, everyone knows that the minimum wage last January went from up to $11 an hour. By code, we have to follow and pay that. So, again, in this year, in January, it's going to $12 an hour. Now, this is only over the next 2 current fiscal years. It will proceed until it's $15 an hour, so it's going to be hard. That's what I was referring to earlier. Things that in this first budget year are going to continue, not just this year, but next year, but years to follow. So, either we look at a catch-up, or, we address it now. Of course, also another thing that was implemented by the state of Virginia was the Virginia Retirement Services. This was another implementation by the General Assembly. They raised the VRS retirement contribution to 15.06. And again, that's another one. Also on the table right now for the General Assembly is for 2022 and 23 budget years and 23 and 24 budget years is a proposed 5% salary increase for county employees and state employees. Now, if everyone has heard, the grocery tax is 2.5 cents. Now, how that is divided up by the Code of Virginia, 1.5 cents of that 2.5 is allocated, 1.5 is allocated to the schools. The schools are coming in at level funding. They already have notified me that they will be coming in at level funding. What that means is that the governor is paying for their raise. No contribution from the county for the next 2 years. So beyond that, remember, this is a biennium budget. But on the county side, the Board of Supervisors has to address the 5% raise on our side. They do not fund us our raises. So that is another issue that has come before it. The state is famous, coming from the state, at pushing cost at the state level to the local level. And another issue you will see, we have also, as you'll see in the documentation, the regional jail cost. Even though, we have worked at keeping our inmates here with community work program, we have diverted from them, worked with recovery, we have done other issues and programs to keep them out. Right now we have been notified, and Tim, you can tell me, and Oris can, this is the letter that you'll see, we're looking at a $300,000 increase just in jail cost. So that's another issue. So all these issues, along with the rate of inflation, which is 10 to 15, which who knows by what it will be by the time we get into this fiscal year. Of all 6 of these issues, the impact to the county from a financial perspective. So this is what is going to set the tax rate. The tax rate in Russell County in 1999 was 64 cents on the 100. It was 1 penny higher than it is right now. So for 23 years, there has not been a tax increase. So that's good. So we got to figure out how we can make it through this inflationary times. Again, it was not created by the Russell County Board of Supervisors. None of these issues were. It was on a national level. I ain't gonna point no fingers. Or it was at a state level. But we have got to deal with it from a legal perspective and make sure that we deliver the services that Russell County citizens are used to and take care of our employees at the same time. So one of the things next is, and just to give a brief history, and a lot of people go back, this board is serving on their 2nd term. Over the last 7 years, and a lot of people don't know, they move in, they move out, but I wanted to do a recap on the 22-23 budget history of what the county has, major issues that we have went through. Okay, when 2014, when this board took over, 15 into the beginning, we had a $3 million RAND note, revenue anticipated note. What that means is we were operating on borrowed money. The second thing we had, even though we were working on borrowed money, we were at a $1.5 million deficit. Also, over the last 7 years, back to 2014, we have been in legal issues with a company here over their tax liability, which is a total of $10.8 million. So we lost that revenue. That was about $1.2 million a year loss in revenue. Also, our coal severance, we know we have no operational mines currently in the county. That is just it. We lost a loss of coal severance. We're not like Buchanan County or Dixon County. We do have manufacturing. We're very diverse in our businesses, but one of the things that we do not have is coal right now. So we lost about approximately $600,000 a year off of this. So if you keep going through and you add up, you know, the $1.5 million deficit, $3 million RAND note, the $1.2 million in revenue loss from a major corporation, $600,000 in coal severance, and you're wondering how we haven't raised taxes. They did it through cutting cost. They have cut everything. We have done nothing but, we operate on a cost-cutting operation mode. We have cut the landfill cost. We have cut the disposal cost. We have cut leachate cost. We've consolidated operations. This is not just from the schools, but also from the courts to the sheriffs, all the way through. Each one of the departments has sacrificed, and they work at a lean and mean. I mean, it is, with very little. And I see heads nodding out there, and some of them know that this is what we do. And what you will see in our budgets is, over the last 5 years, it's level funding. There hasn't been no increase in anything unless it's contractual or anything between the schools. You'll see level funding, Sheriff's Department, level funding. They have operated in that mode while simultaneously doing operational cuts. So, now what that transitions into, even though it is, and we've done cost cutting, some major cost cutting to keep that kind of revenue up, we have got our landfill under control. We put in new disposal sites. And I know that's not important, but it is important. We have built 4 new additional sites. We've upgraded the community centers. We've upgraded the ballparks. We're not done yet, but we've had to work with a bit loss of revenue while simultaneously trying to cut costs and increase your services. Also, even on the courthouse, that courthouse that's built, and I'm mentioning it, and it's no increased debt. Right now, it is no increased debt. As far as one maturity goes to, the next one comes in. There is no increase in debt. And of course, like I mentioned before, there's been no county tax rate increases since 1999. And it was actually higher than it is now. So now, those are some of the talking points on what they're looking at now with the new national inflation and what they're looking at. Now, I know that in the previous years, and last year, when we implemented the cigarette and the meal tax, I know there was a lot of issues about it at the end. That's one of the things they're saving, because remember, we got to make up that $1.2 million, that $600,000 loss, that $1.2 million loss, while simultaneously cutting costs. Again, like we had emphasized during that time, and what our records have shown over the last 12 months, this is about a $300,000 increase to the county. And majority of that cost is from the traveling public, which we know. Yeah, it's just the way it is. They come through here zooming on 58 and the 19. They slow down enough to pull into 11 and buy a pack of cigarettes and McDonald's, and right out they go, just like we thought. So when we look at, and also during the biggest thing, during the pandemic, there was a lot of, one of the things that we're seeing also on this issue is the loss of local sales tax. The sales tax, again, I had mentioned before on the grocery tax, but this is the sales tax. During the pandemic, there was a lot of money that was given out. There was a lot of people that went and bought TVs and microwaves, and God bless you, you did. It kept us running. But now it's gone. So that's why I'm showing a 2.6% decrease in our sales tax. The free money is over. That translates back to sales tax for us. But again, it's another drop in a number that we've got in a level funding budget. So again, the cigarette tax and the meal tax kind of kept our head above the water during this time, especially now that we're losing real sales tax due to the lack of spending. With the inflationary rates, the rate of the inflationary rate and the rate of interest rates going up, everyone knows, they see it on TV every day. It is going to get harder and harder. Rate of fuel, the fuel alone in this county, and we are operating on state contracts, which means the sheriff's department, the PSA, the county cars, disposal units are running on government-backed state contracts. What that means in fuel is we don't pay local and sales tax. We are running the leanest, meanest that we can get on these operations. But again, even though the price of fuel does not have federal and state tax with it, it will keep increasing. The price of diesel, as anybody looked at today, you're into the five. Our cost on diesel fuel alone went up $5,000 a month. So it's hard to look through these numbers when we look. And then the tax base, if you look in Russell County, as all counties do before, and I've got the Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer here, they'll tell you there's 5 taxes that make up the majority of the budget for Russell County. Real estate tax, personal property, machine and tool, sales tax. There's your king and queen and brother and sister of taxes. So when we get to that point right here, what you see on the screen, between the mobile home and these line items right here, and these are the local sales, there's the majority of our total budget. Of $25 million, you're at $20 million right here in these two, this group right here. That's it. So what the board is looking at is, it has to consider is, this is what we're looking at. One of the things that we do, and we do very well between the Commissioner's office, the Treasurer's office, and our office, we set an estimate based off the assessment of real estate and personal property. Now, how close were we in these estimates? We're at 99.6% accuracy for the last 5 years. 99.6, that's how close we can get these. And that's pretty good. If it wasn't for the delinquency pays, there's where the variance is. And you'll see those later. Now, as you can see, these are the real numbers. Those are not budget numbers. These are the real numbers. As you can see on the real estate, during the first phase of real estate, our taxes, remember 99.6% estimate based off the base property assessments, we're still 152,000 short of people that have not paid. That's in the first quarter. So if I double my quarters, we're looking at 300,000 drop in real estate alone. Not counting the 1.2 million from the suits, not the 600,000 in co-severance, but this is dealing with this year alone. As we keep going through the mineral tax, as you can see, I'm 168,000 short just in mineral tax. Also, sorry about that. Also on the delinquency tax, these are even in the federal, our public service taxes, we're at 38,000 short on it. Now, down to the personal property, as you can see, out of our total, we're 244,000 short right now in the delinquency. So again, the king and queen, brother and sister of taxes is here. And of course, the sales tax is here out of our projections. Just because the spending has went down due to the pandemic, we're short $188,000. So those are hard numbers to make up. So it's hard to make up the revenue while we have the state as you're gonna see, this is from the regional jail. The state has, again, I have mentioned previously, has the philosophy, the planning. When they do things, they want the localities to share in it, the regional jails. They would try to push the cost down to the counties. As you can see on the regional jail, here is our increase. Even though we have dropped our inmates and we're diverting them into the community work program, we're going from a budget of 180 inmates to 171, but our costs went up $300,000. Their costs went up in their salaries, their operating costs, so they're shifting the cost to the counties. Not that we're not performing, we're not reducing. Remember, we were reducing. We're putting them to work out here. You see them cleaning up the side of the road. You see them doing the community centers. You see the pics on Facebook. We're doing this, but it's not translating at the regional jail. They're up there, they're paying their employees, and we're going to absorb the cost of all those salary increases. Next, of course, this is another thing I want to point out to the Board of Supervisors. When we have businesses and the transition to the IDAs and when we put things, donations and easements, right now we've lost about $21,329,800 in assets that are sitting idle. You see what I'm saying? That is a total, and that translates into $134,377.74 in properties of these 13 that are vacant or non-operational assets. So during the pandemic, and we were on track during that time to get those assets up, put jobs in them. The pandemic went down, and everybody came to a standstill. These will eventually get back up, but it will take time to get back up. So as we keep transitioning through these are the things that we must look at. So we've got to get these back operational. We've got to keep this current inflation. The biggest headwinds that we have is inflation. Both Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer will tell you, that was one thing that we cannot fix. It's rising faster than we can keep up with the rate of inflation. So what I'm proposing to the board for consideration after all these things, and I'm going to turn it over to the Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer and let them talk about these, but these are the big issues that we're seeing and that must be considered for the budget. And I know it looks hard, but again, the Board of Supervisors for Russell County did not create these. This is created by the federal and the state on their programs, or it's done by the pandemic, but as we're coming out of it, and what we can do. So, Ray, do you want to speak first?
What is you want me to speak to?
Real estate, start off with the taxes. There's the mic. You're hot.
I was afraid of that. I've been in the hot seat before. Well, no, the first thing I would say to the county, we've never been here before. We have never been in this kind of a situation with inflation running as high as it is, all these costs that's directly affecting each and every one of us, and the county is a business. As a county, we're a business. It affects us exactly the same way. And it's hard to make your budget, whether it be at home or whether it be here. I wish these were not the real numbers, but Lonzo's giving you the real numbers, the numbers up there. That's what we've talked about. That's what we pull. That's the best numbers that we can get. We've been going out and trying to find new construction, find things we've missed. Matter of fact, I don't know where else to look. I mean, I've got them on the little dirt roads. I've got them everywhere looking to see, just to make sure we've got everything first on the tax roll. Not to say that we don't miss things sometimes, But what Alonzo's telling you about this loss of revenue through some of these buildings and some of these assets that's not bringing back any revenues, they're sitting there, they're tax exempt. We're not getting anything from it. We started out in hopes of some return revenues and people come into these buildings, but it didn't happen. Now they're sitting there and it affects each and every one of us, and it really hurts our county. We need industry in these buildings, we need jobs, and we don't have it. It's a tough time. And it's not just us, it's getting worse. So for me to give you good news, I don't guess I have any good news other than we just have to try to live within our means. We need to look at our numbers. Every agency, we're gonna have to really be as lean as we can be in all these categories. And that list he put up there of all of our, on the lost revenues, now those are big numbers, and there's a lot of smaller ones that's not up there. So, the numbers are real, the times is real. It's time that, I guess we all put our heads together. We're all in the same boat. We're all gonna have to work together. We're gonna have to help one another, do our part, whichever agency we belong to. And you guys, I know you got a hard job ahead of you. I don't relish sitting in your chair, but it's hard decisions. Anybody can make the easy decisions, but when it comes to the hard ones, we're there today. And that's basically it. Any questions?
I do, if you don't mind.
Yes.
This is not a hot seat question. But in order to, at this point in time, it is not up to the Board of Supervisors to divest ourselves of any property that has been purchased, correct?
That's-
And taken off the roll.
It's not.
It's not within our purview. Is that
No,
correct?
That is correct. But on some of the properties, I guess I don't know how it works with you all in the IDA, but most of it's IDA properties. And some of these properties that were listed were private properties that went to tax exempt. I mean, we had a few churches in there, which there's nothing wrong with that, but, you know, it becomes tax exempt. You're right in what you said, yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that that's again out of our hands too. It's unfortunate,
Yeah.
but I guess hindsight is 20/20 when you start buying buildings.
But you
And-
know, when you put all this money into buying these properties, it comes from everywhere. I mean, you got state monies, you got county monies, IDA, you all know about the governor's funds and all of that, and the coal people over here. There's a lot of people that's got money in these places, and they're just sitting there. How you get it back, I don't know, or how you can, I don't know. Maybe we need to hold people more accountable. Some of the people that does have something to do with this. Maybe we need to hear from them.
Yes, sir. I don't disagree with that at all. So that would be, I'm sorry, that if we're going to have hard conversations today, we're going to have hard conversations. So that would be our local IDA board that kind of needs to give an account of what we're going to look for in these buildings and where we can go with that and get it off our backs, so
I
to
think
speak.
nobody can be exempt. Everybody's gonna have to come to the table. We're all gonna have to talk. If we don't get it together here, it's not gonna happen. We have got to do a better job of communication. You need to know everything about every agency, how it works, what's going on. We don't need any surprises. We need to have it all on the table today. Again, we have never been here before.
Mr. Lister, on those buildings, was that, was one of those buildings, did we miss one of those buildings that was out here, the lingerie factory? Is it on there? Did I miss that?
It's
Is that the Russell
Ma-
Place?
It's on there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And do we have a business in that?
No,
Was that not the dry cleaners, but the car wash? The car wash parts?
that did not develop out.
That did not materialize?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay, and the Bush Building in St. Paul at $4 million was taken off the tax roll.
Yes, ma'am.
That did not materialize.
No, ma'am. And see, that's one of the things I wanted to point out to Russell County citizens. With the drop in tax between the north of Grumman and the coast severance, and what we're looking at on the budget is about a $400,000 deficit. It wouldn't be fair for everybody to sit and go point fingers at the Board of Supervisors and we can't, like I said, between what the state has implemented, what what has been taken off the tax rolls, as you've seen, 137,000, that's half of what I need, or they need. So, but the point is this, as the Commissioner of Revenue and Ms. Wallace had emphasized is, we're gotta get these jobs back up. When it creates it goes, if these properties are transferred back into taxpayers' hands, the property value, that $4 million goes back on the tax rolls. That keeps coming back along with the jobs. So, and we don't want to pick on one department or one issue. We've went through some major things here lately, some pandemics. We know these are tacked off the tax rolls. We've got these vacant buildings that need jobs in them and need to be filled and be done. But also, we have our job to do. You know what I'm saying? We're not skirting our job either. So that's why we said and have cut taxes. We look at everything. We look at every dollar, and I think the treasurer, she don't sleep most of the time. So our budget is great. I mean, and it's developed with sound principles, sound financial principles that are looked at every year by federal, state, and local, and those meet the benchmarks each and every time. Some of them scratch their head going, how do you operate on this? Because when I talk to other counties and various counties, and I don't mean to keep on elaborate, my maintenance department is 3.5 people. 3.5. The rest are done with community workers. You go to any county out of 95 in the state of Virginia, you will not find it. I will guarantee it, period.
I guess the only little bright spot that I see anywhere, and it's just a little bright spot, is the gas, natural gas. From what I understand, they're gonna drill more wells this year because the price of gas has gone up. And it's gonna uptick a little bit. How much, I don't know. We don't know how much the federal government will allow them to. But that's the only thing that might come up a little bit, but that severance is so little. Of course, the value of the gas wells too. A couple gas wells would really help out. We got about 200,000 per well on them as far as value.
Nothing that a couple hundred jobs would not fix.
When I look at the lost revenue for these buildings, $134,000. And then I look at the regional
That's only the
jail.
real estate.
That's real estate,
That's real estate only. That's not the machine and tool that would come out of these.
Right. But then, if you ask the people about it, they're gonna scream COVID, what we've all been through for the last couple of years. And, and I can't argue with that, it's just been a bad situation. You can't, supply chain issues and stuff like that. And that's may have killed a couple of projects. But, we've got regional jail, $300,000 increase. Minimum wage,
Between them both, 80,000.
yeah. And then we looking at this 5% salary increase, not to mention the 2% VRS increase that was mandatory.
Yes,
And that's the same thing as a 2% raise because it's 2% on the base gross, right?
That is correct, sir.
So, these real estate's just a small part of it, really, or not small, but it's a minor part, let's say. But you have to do those things if you're going to do economic development.
Yeah, that's
So-
part of it. It's just the timing's bad,
Timing, bad timing.
bad timing.
And this inflation, I don't know when it's going to ever end. I cringe when I go to the mailbox to pick up my monthly report on my IRA. And I won't tell you, I about threw up when I saw it this past month. It was bad.
It is.
Yeah, I don't think
I may
there's
have to
any
get
end
another
in
job.
sight. Yeah.
And see, we sat and held conferences and budget conferences, and we talked with every department, every federal, state agency that we could. We sat and looked at these numbers, we have run these numbers, we have walked these numbers, and Alicia will tell you that, and I'm conservative, and she'll tell you I'm a little bit too relaxed on them. We're pushing these to the limit. At our 99.6% estimate, we're pushing these limits to get solidarity, get transparency. When we were working on the budget, and we've been on this, and as like I said, 95 counties, 103 municipalities throughout the state of Virginia, as big as Fairfax is with their tax base, they're holding their budget because this is a major impact. The rate of inflation is going up faster than we can plug the numbers. As fast as I can sit and calculate the fuel, it's off by $3,000 in 2 weeks. So, like Randy said, Commissioner Revenue said, it's going to take all of us to get us over this hump. And you know, the Board of Supervisors is some hard decisions.
I guess I've been sitting here longer than most of you, having served as Commissioner of Revenue. I have never seen this kind of a budget or this kind of a time that we've had to sit here and really look hard. I mean, we've had some tough budgets in the past, but now this time, especially with it, it's still moving upward, all this stuff is. I mean, you don't know where to set anything from day to day. It's unreal. So I wish I had some good news for you, but it's real. That's all I can say.
I see you have on here a listing of a lot of the losses, but I don't see anywhere in here where we have those potential projects like the Jonah project and what we would incur from that and some of the other development projects that they're working on currently.
And it's a good question, David. Now, these have really been taken off. They're not proposed. These are real numbers that came off the tax rolls. Those are real. We have not assessed Project Jonah yet because it's got to be
We've
up and
assessed the real
operating.
estate.
Yeah,
Only.
yeah.
Well, I think there's several projects out there. I think what Dave is getting to, you know, if we were 2 years down the road, it might be a completely different story.
If it
It
was
would be.
But we've got to deal with the present day. And, you know, we've got to find a solution to this that's not going to kill everybody. I think we just need to sit down and think about it and see what alternatives are out there.
I got a question for you, Randy. I think I might have mentioned this to you years ago when me and Steve was going through when we first got elected, but on the assessment, would it be reasonable to look at any new development or new properties and do possibly a yearly assessment internally on that as far as the rate of what the home sells for and not just the base rate?
Some counties have chosen to do that. It's like playing the stock market. You go in at the right time, it might be all right for a while. But right now, where we're on the high, where everything is so unstable, I think you jump in and you have a housing, everything falls out. I think you lose.
All right, well, I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask you to get your opinion on that since we're talking openly.
Then too, you know, like on the public service, like on the power plants and all the public service. Right now, the ratio, of course, it's going upward, and it would be to our advantage if we did it yearly, if we had a power plant like we used to have.
I understand.
But here we are, if we commit to try to get those revenues from like the power plant and public service, and that power plant is a little bit shaky right now. I don't know what's gonna happen, but
Well, I was just thinking, you know, I mean, due to inflation,
yeah,
those, I mean, AEP, they come out of the gate, since their stock held, they say, well, we're gonna raise your power rates 14%. They don't give you much notice, and then it's a battle between the state and them trying to get them to control power utility costs. And I will tell you, I'm working on something right now that could be pretty beneficial since you mentioned natural gas. I've got a meeting with Congressman Griffith on June 1st. So I think if they would look at the utilization, what God's blessed us with, and for the consumer's ability to be able to utilize natural gas, it would be a lot more utilization, a lot more taxable income coming in, and a lot more wells that could be produced, you know, here within the region of Southwest Virginia. And I know it ain't an immediate fix, but it could be a long standard fix because of revenue that's you get on a continual basis.
Yeah, it's a shame we can't utilize the gas that's right here underneath us.
I'm with you, brother.
It's right here
And
with
coal.
us.
We got a meeting with Secretary of Trade and Commerce, and we're gonna have a heart discussion because these natural gas companies are ready to go out of the gate. And if they want, even from the federal perspective, I mean, they can shut down a pipeline and cause fuel prices to go out the roof, but we have our own pipeline. And I think we need to be self-sufficient, what God's blessed us with here in our back door. And it would absolutely reduce power utility costs. It would cause a lot of construction jobs, and it would appliance sales. We've just talked about TV sales, but that was free money to go get a TV. And now you can't get people to work, but these appliance sales would be actual sales to benefit the consumer.
Well, it would be crazy to shut down a power plant after they built all those big pipelines into that thing, went through all those properties. And we got that thing over there, got it right here in the gas fields. And for them to shut that down would be the craziest thing. So we all need to, I don't know that we could do a thing, but at least we can talk to people. Let's keep it open.
That's right.
Let's don't let it die without us fighting for it.
Well, I know in my district alone, you know, we produce enough gas in my district to service probably 3 or 4 counties, not counting Buchanan, Dickinson, and Tazewell County. I just never could understand why we couldn't provide it to the end user. And the town of Lebanon, it comes right through town, and you can't get nobody, I mean, they won't hook nobody up.
Well, yeah, they did run a section down in the Kerner Edition down there, but I tried to get it when I lived down below the Methodist Church down there. You could throw a rock, and I could stand on my porch and throw a rock with a good pitch, and I could hit that line. But I couldn't get it to run them down, get them to run it down there because they said maybe when the hospital hooks up, but they never did. But at any rate, they told me that a lot of people are afraid of gas. They're scared, you know, especially the older people.
I'm afraid of not having it.
I'm with you.
And we all are.
Randy, let me ask you a question. In this, you know what the market's like now for real estate. Houses are going, you know, 20, 25% more than what they're worth. I've heard of houses selling for more than what the asking price was because there's such a low supply. To set the rate, if a house sells for $250,000, wouldn't that be the value of that particular house? I mean, does that mess your base up some way?
What are you saying?
If I buy a house
based
for
on the sale.
$250,000,
Yeah,
wouldn't that be the value of that house?
pretty much, but you can't use that.
Why can't you use that?
You have to go by the general reassessment, what they put on that house. When they did their studies
That is correct.
and all, to set those ratios,
So it's all or none then?
it was based all on sales 4 years ago right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, so you can't do individual houses like
Not-
that. It's all of them have to be done.
The only
The
time
same way.
that we can adjust those is if it is if we see an error. A definite, I mean, there's something there that's actually wrong, you can identify it, we can change it. But unless, you gotta leave it alone. They said that was the fair market value, and it stays fair market value until you reassess again.
Yeah.
And again, that's up to y'all how often you wanna reassess. But right now, I believe when we're on the top, on the bubble, I'm afraid we'd get started and the bubble would burst, and we would be hurting the housing market drop.
And see, that's one of the things that we discussed, you know, you always look for the quick, easy answer. In annual assessments or you know, every year, 2 years, it'll be okay during a normal economic period. That way you get to normal adjustments rather than a 4 to 5 year adjustment. But one of the things that you tend to do, and a lot of counties do, they'll kick when it's high on the bubble, kick it up, and I'll raise the budget, and then next year it goes down, then what are you gonna do? You gotta find a place to plug this number or cut the services. So it's a double-edged sword, is what I'm saying.
Yes, and in some areas, we're upside down in our house values, and that's unfortunate for our citizens, and I don't like that. I don't like to go to the equalization board, and certainly, we have been a time or two.
It's not real pleasant.
It is not real pleasant, and for the folks that are sitting here today, they don't want their home to be reassessed. I don't want mine to be reassessed. They're shaking their heads. So I think that is not considered to be anything I'm interested in.
Plus, the reassessment's just around the corner at you, a year
Right.
after next. so.
And even if you was two, I think the rate of interest rates is gonna by the time we get the assessment done, it'll be so high that it's going to put the, it's gonna suppress the market.
Well, the supply and demand,
That's true.
there
too.
is no supply of houses. I mean, a house stays on the market a day, and it's gone.
Yeah, a
And
lot
it
of
troubles
outside
me.
buyers too.
That troubles me because, of our base, I could take my house down in Charlotte and it'd be worth $750,000, but location, it's up here in Southwest Virginia. And that's why people from some of these other areas are coming in and buying up properties like this.
Yes.
But I'm really worried, you've got this casino that's coming in, and you've got the pure salmon, you've got some other things that are working, and I think our housing situation is gonna be a critical issue here in the next 2 or 3 years. Nobody's building houses, and I know why, because the materials are so high. And, I don't know, it's just,
You can't build.
it's a bad situation,
Because if you used to build right now, and if you didn't sell it while the market's at the height,
You'd be stuck with it.
yes. And you couldn't build a complex like, multiple or townhouses. It's a high risk.
I think it's really gonna be, I could see an influx of people coming into Russell County with the casino.
Actually,
We're
it's already
40 minutes
started.
away. Yeah,
Some of the people that's buying property, they're from everywhere, really.
Yeah.
I'm buying big price homes coming in.
yeah. Well, I think that's an issue we're gonna have to look at for too long.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us today, moving along?
Well,
We're
I haven't
gonna-
the treasurer hasn't spoke yet.
That's
And
right.
she's,
I'm not trying to
we
dismiss
saved her to
you,
last.
Commissioner Williams, I'm not trying to dismiss you, I promise.
Well, unless you have any more questions, I'll hand the microphone to her. Thank you, guys. Appreciate,
Thank you, Randy.
and again, I appreciate the job that you do. You got a hard job. Just gotta step in them big boy pants and try to do it. It's hard. I've been on boards, I know. Not this one, but
Thank you, sir.
Before Alicia speaks, I'm just gonna tell you something. I'm really upset over this regional jail deal. I thought when Bristol became a part of this, that our cost was gonna go down.
It did.
I mean,
It would be way worse if it weren't for them.
Yeah, it'd be a lot worse if it wasn't
Yes, it
for
would.
them.
It'd be
Yeah, it would
worse,
a lot
yeah.
worse. Remember, that 5% that you're seeing, their costs, like I was referring to earlier, their operational costs went up, so they're just pushing it to the counties. That's the way it's gonna work.
Picking up Bristol didn't help us.
On the front end, when we did this, it was $80,000 impact. Now it's 300,000 positive.
I
Yeah,
think they're
and-
padding their budget just a little bit.
And that may be the truth.
I think their budget, they're inflating their budget up a little bit, just to make sure that we may get that money back, but it didn't do us a bit of good right now,
Does you
With our
not a
budget.
bit of good.
And some of this too is changes that are going on at the state level. They're going to implement a higher starting rate of pay for these officers. They're going to stop the jails from being able to make any profit on the inmates, like on phone calls and stuff like that, is income that they were used to getting that now they're gonna lose.
I think Bristol kinda, I'll be honest with you, I'm just gonna speak it.
They made out.
They just set us up. I mean, when the casino goes in, there's gonna be a lot more arrests. And they're gonna flood the jail, and then we're gonna have to pay for it. I don't like it.
It's it.
Being honest.
And it is it. Now, what's supposed to happen through the legislation to take care of 1 to 3 big items of the casino revenues in each county, Washington County's supposed to build and now expand their with this money, and public safety is one of them. But of course, they're gonna have to have deputies and police service there. That's gonna take the biggest chunk of their money to be able to just have a police force in place with 2 million people estimated to come in annually. So they're not gonna be able to build a jail, and if you used to build a jail right now, it'd cost you $50 million. So, I mean, that's a good cheap price right there. So, there's no easy answers, and it ain't like they're gaining the casino without some major cost. It's gonna have to work. Alicia?
Well, there's really not a lot that I can say to add to this. The numbers that Lonzo gave you on the general ledger, those are accurate numbers. I pull those numbers every day in the hopes that something's changed overnight, that we've got some money from somewhere else. If anything, he has been a little bit liberal with his estimations on the income. I wouldn't have put those income figures up where he has. I would have brought them back a little bit because I'm more conservative with that. I want to make sure that that's something that I know that we're going to have, that we're going to collect. Like I said, our numbers are accurate. One thing that has really had me worried is because we don't have a tax rate. So we can't run the books, we can't get the tickets out, and we can't get payments in. So this is the time of year that we start having cash flow problems. And that's just being honest with you. We've got to do something soon, because if not, then, we're gonna have to do something to get some income in here. So that's another thing we have to look at. I've looked at the budget, I've looked at our numbers that we've collected, I've looked what we expend, and, we are really up against it as to what we can cut now, because we have cut so much stuff, and we're right up against that. So it's gonna really take some hard work and some creativity and everybody working together to try to come up with a solution to this. I do not envy you at all. This is one of the hardest, I've been here now 12 years, and this is one of the hardest budgets that I've seen. I think there's things coming out that in a few years' time that things that y'all have implemented that will help, but it's not gonna help this budget year. So anything that I can do to help you, any kind of reports I can do to help you, go over any of it with you, I'll be glad to meet with any of you anytime or run any of the reports that you need. That this is going to be a hard year for us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for taking the time and coming to speak to us today. We tried to work around as many schedules as we could to make sure that we were able to talk to you all. So I appreciate you taking the time and looking at everything. Suggestions, Mr. Lester? You have all the numbers?
And
I'd like to hear from the budget committee what
That's,
recommendations are.
Well, I do not propose any tax increase, and it's a hard time, it's a hard year, and just need to keep tightening our belts and making cuts where we can. Because it's level funding exactly we've done every year.
yes, and we know that, but where are those cuts that we need to make today or start thinking about today?
Lonzo, on the low side, we're probably, $400,000 would be under.
here's the numbers, and again, as Alicia had pointed out, I'm pushing the revenue. So if I go into the numbers, sorry about that, let me get down to here. That's the expenditures. Let me go up.
While you're moving, what can we do to start implementing the service that Ms. McLaughlin has to do her job?
This is part of the process to get the tax. Y'all have got to set a tax rate. Yes, you have to have a public hearing, and
So
we can do that today,
Okay, so we're not getting,
See, this is
too
not
far
status, it's
behind.
comment, this is a workshop, so, they
Yes,
have to
please.
decide.
let
But-
Ms. McLaughlin speak, please.
I'm sorry.
Once you do have a tax rate set, Randy 2 weeks to pay. I like to give them longer than that because that's hard on some people to have to come up with that in 2 weeks. But if we get something done within, if you get a tax rate set within the next few weeks, then we should be able to meet the June 29th deadline. If I may, Madam Chair, by code, you are required to set it at no later than the regular meeting in June. So June 6th is the date that the tax rate's going to be set by.
For those that can't hear on a microphone, June 6th is the date that we've got to do this.
Is that the tax rate or the budget?
It says the tax, it says the governing body of each county shall have its regular meeting in the month of January in each year or soon thereafter as practicable, not later than a regular or called meeting in June, fix the amount of the county and district taxes for the current year. So it says June 6th is our regular June meeting. If it's set then, we won't have the time, we won't be able to
There's
meet
the
the
tax.
29th tax deadline.
So
I just
here-
think that's your,
Yes, ma'am. So here we are. Let's,
and if I may, and I
how do we do this, Ms. Patton?
And I know that, this is not what the board intends, but just, I wanted to know, just in case that is something they have to do. If there were going to be an increase, then it has to be published in the newspaper at least 7 days to allow the citizens to appear and be heard before that increase. So, but it doesn't say anything about just as far as a public hearing. I know, I think you're trying to make it available for the public to come and talk about the budget, but you only have to advertise it if it's gonna be an increase.
Oh, no, go ahead.
That's all, I just wanted the board to know
Okay,
those
so-
two things.
So if it's not going to change, we can set it today.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it says,
Yeah.
it just says at their meeting or called meeting in June, and actually it says called meeting in June, so it could be after that, but she's saying June 6th would be too late.
There's,
Okay.
and one of the things under the Code of Virginia too. Now, when the Board of Supervisors sets the budget by law, under the code, you have to have a balanced budget. So, here's where we get to. I need $380,000 to balance the budget.
That's all I need to know. Thank
There's
you.
380.
Start digging.
Yes, I was where I was going. If you don't raise the taxes, you can set that, which we have polled in the previous, go ahead and release the tax tickets. Both Randy and Alicia knows that. If you can give me 380,000 of line item cuts or suggestions, how you're gonna make this up without raising taxes, we can release.
That's the low side.
That's the conservative side.
That's the conservative side.
That-
We're only $400,000.
No, that does not include an additional line item of the regional jail. The regional jail is 300,000, so it's 680 if I add them in. So every other number's been checked and verified, except for the regional jail, cause that will depend on how it comes in.
Include the
5%, that includes the 11, the 12, the VRS, the 5%, that includes all of it. 680 with the regional jail.
The VRS is almost shocking, I think.
That's what I was,
That was,
that's a 20% increase in aggregate.
that was a
sale.
20% increase, and that is something that we have to do, so.
And it was by law, you have to do it.
Well, the regional jail's gonna do that, aren't
That is what you see in their letter to us or what they're proposing, whether you get the money back at the end of the period or not. See,
Which
that doesn't
typically
help you on the front end.
Typically, we have, but that's nothing we can
can count on.
guarantee. Yeah.
Here's the bottom line, I need $680,000.
Where's the 680,000 gonna come from, Mr. Lester? You got the numbers, and the budget committee.
Well, and I know that I won't be able to walk out the building after this, but. And
Neither
I'll
the
be
rest of
facetious.
us may either, so let's just face
You-
it and go on.
Of course, you got the tax rate, y'all know y'all's ability to do that. Okay, now, if we go into more cuts, now, let me explain back to the salary component, which, once you do, you're gonna go back down that rabbit hole again and forever. Under what's been presented under the current state budget is this: out of the 1.5% salary of the grocery tax, that is paying for the school's 5% increase. There will be no impact to the county from that. The governor's picking it up on that side, on the school side. So the only line items that you have to play with, if, of course, is the programs and the salaries. Right now, there's 5% built into the budget. You have to do the $11, you have to do the 12, and you have to do the VRS. So the 5% is there, but based off of what the code is, just like Scott County and everyone knows, the turmoil that happened last year is you can go from 5 to 2, but you can't go below 2%. They can give a 2 to 5%. And remember, what y'all gotta remember this year, and again, like I said at the beginning of the conversations, is the budget issues you're facing this year it's got a snowball effect. It goes into next year, you've got another 5% to deal with. So whatever has to be done almost has to be permanent. There's no temporary fix here. So the line items that we've got. So again, your 5%, you've got the autonomy to be able to do what you need to do with that. But you also got, like I said, you gotta consider the school is getting 5%. So
What does
is
that
it-
save us?
Even at the 5%, if you take it down to 0, you're looking at $230,000. It's because you gotta remember the Constitution, the biggest portion of our budget is not, I've only got 3.5 people, so that, this ain't hard to do. The Constitution officers, their raises come through the state, which is picked up. The Sheriff's Department, Randy's office, other than the ones that's county supported, we have 100, where's Vicky at? Is she here? I think I got 168 employees. Yes, there's the range right now today. So that's the ones that we've got to pick up that's either in the Constitution officer that's county supported or fully fully compensated county employees. And Kelly's back there saying library, she knows it. All of them are county. All your libraries, your other support systems is it. So again, 5% to 2%, but you can't go below 2% to certify.
Which difference does that make?
If you take the 230 out of the 680, 700, so, So the increase is 298 plus the 230. Sorry about that, it kicked the wrong number.
I will. Mr. Lester?
Yes, ma'am.
We're having a side conversation, which we shouldn't do, but we're talking about the utility fees that we proposed at one time and looked at, and we're being
Yes.
asked about that. Now, that was taken very harshly before. Nobody liked that idea. But it's not instant cash right now. It won't help us right this very minute. It takes how long to get this implemented and collected?
Well, and that's one of the things us and the treasurer have looked at. We've sat and looked at this. On the disposal fee, depending upon what you set it at, it will take a while to implement. First, you can't implement it until July the 1st, sorry about that. You got 3 utility companies that you gotta deal with. Now, and those are done by, under the Code of Virginia, are done by contractual. So that means they have to agree to that. And they do get a portion of your, whatever you collect out of the disposal fee, it's usually 5%. That is the minimum amount that you'll pay. It can go up to from 5 to 10% of your revenue base of what you collect. So it will take, and Alicia and I have had this conversation, it's not a quick fix. It's a program that you can implement, but it's like the cigarette meal tax last year. I said I could not financially estimate this because it's not in place, and the state of Virginia is not gonna let you implement something that they don't have real numbers on, and the auditors are not. But it could be in, I would give it 4 months, 3 to 4 months to be conservative. You see anything else, Treasurer? By the time we get the ETIs and everything based in, you're talking 3 to 4 months before we get that revenue flow back in place.
You might
The short
explain
answer.
to everybody what that is, the utility
It's a disposal fee that is in.
for trash.
For disposal, yes. And of course, it has, one of the things that was discussed before on the disposal fee to increase disposal fee was, of course, build new facilities, one. Number two, get everything within 15 minutes drive. We're building one in Sun, getting ready to put a new one in Honaker. Get everybody within a 15-minute drive, no matter where you're at in 477 square miles of Russell County. So, also, one of the things that the board had looked at is uniform hours. Have one set schedule throughout the week and extended hours. So that's part of it. Whatever funding goes in this has to go back to, by the Code of Virginia, has to go back to disposal and landfill fees. It just can't be used for any various thing. It's restricted funding, as we call it in the state of Virginia. So it's got to be put back into for those operations to take care of the trucks, the disposal, the fees, the hours, the employees, the landfill. So I know that's a long answer, but from a cash flow perspective, and you can go up to $6, it is a fee, it's added to your power bill, and that would come in just when you pay the power bill. The utility company collects it, and then they'll take their percentile for administration, and then they send you their net residual. So that's the way it works.
That is a monthly fee.
It is a monthly fee, thank you. It's a monthly fee, and it's added to it. A lot of counties do it. It's just part of the doing the business. But another thing it does is, one of the advantages that the board liked on it, not just extend the hours to the additional sites, but it also got rid of this business tax, this business fee that some people said they didn't have but one bag of trash, but they got a monthly fee. This is more transparent. This goes out to the ones that not only own houses, and it only applies to residential houses. It don't apply to barns or the light out in utility if you got a small barn or a small shed or something like that. But it only applies to residential and the businesses like this. But it also catches the renters right now. We have 18% of the county is renters. That's based off the census and what we see in real estate. So you're talking 15 to 18% are paying nothing. They don't pay nothing. They don't pay no personal property, real estate. They don't pay anything in the county. This is a way to catch them, you see, because it's tied to that power bill. Once they come in and hook up that electricity in their name, it gets them. They do pay their share. That is one way. But right now, 15 to 18% of the renters in the county pays no real estate, no personal property, nothing for the schools, nothing for sheriffs, nothing in disposal, canneries, or any other service they use, period. Short version.
By my numbers, implementing that tax, for a full year, it would generate, I looked on some of the state data, and it shows about just shade less than 11,000 households in Russell County. 10,975 is what it showed.
In the last census, there was 10,781. Now, that's the census. That's close enough, yes.
That's close enough. But at $6 a month, that generates, even after a 5% administrative fee, $750,000 a year, by my calculations. I'm wondering if this wouldn't be something,
Yes,
it's
you're
kind of
right.
like buying a car. You're going to pay it all up front, or you're going to pay it on a monthly basis, There's no good answer to this solution, but we're going to generate some revenue somehow.
That would level you
it-
out, that's basically,
it's-
even if you implemented at $6.
Well, I've got a problem dumping, increasing the real estate tax and dumping it on the people that are vested here in Russell County. The people that own land, the people are going to be here. They're going to be here a while, And some of the renters, I didn't realize it was 18%.
15 to 18%.
But that is a way to spread that out. This would go towards resolving our budget issues next year as well, right?
Well, okay, you're 380. With the regional jail, you're at 700,000. By the time you do administration, you're breaking even. You know it. By the time he put it.
Well, you're saying we can't implement it until January, so-
July.
July.
You do it in July, it'd take 3 to 4 months, but the cash flow,
Well, we could be almost there.
almost there. It'd break you
And
even.
not have to raise real estate taxes.
You still got to look at the 5% next year and the rest.
Well, I'm saying this, the closer we can get,
To leveling this budget out, it
you
would.
know, yeah. We have to deal with this year. And we can't deal with, this is kind of like a jump on next year, I guess. And hopefully maybe some of our economic development will pan out, during that time. That'll generate some revenue for us. I'd prefer something like that over the real estate tax. I feel,
Now, Katie,
Where is the state on their budget? Any news there?
the
Three-
stalemate,
3 billion.
they're $3 billion difference.
Well, see, that's the problem. We don't know what our dilemma is or isn't yet.
Well, you know the regional jail and the 5% raise, so, I mean, that's a given. Even if they, and the only thing that's been proposed, even out of the preliminary numbers, the Constitution officers will tell you, so will the schools, it's level funding. Schools already informed me level funding, period. That's it. Also, the Constitution officers, unless, only Constitution office getting additional funding is the Sheriff Department, and they're getting only 1 deputy additional. That's it. Now, that's what's been discussed. So there's not going to be much variance in these numbers. So it is, like Alicia said, and we're pushing the envelope here. Just and your 5 big taxes, king and queen of taxes, I call them, and we discuss, is your real estate, your personal property, machine and tool, and your sales tax. Those are the biggest, that makes up the biggest portion of your whole total budget. And your public service taxes.
Currently, there's no charge whatsoever for trash.
None.
It's just right out of the general
Where
budget. told
all
David-
taxpayers, 80% of the taxpayers are taking care of 100% of the cost.
In the first budget meeting that we had, I told David, when I looked at it, because it was like the third or fourth biggest item on the county's cost list, that we would eventually have to start
Well, the
charging.
reason we talked about it is because it was a level playing field. You're not penalizing people for ownership of property. Anybody gets a power bill has to contribute back to the county, and I mean, that's the reason we were looking at it, is just to be fair, not to penalize just people with ownership, or you have a lot, I didn't know we had 18% renters.
15 to 18%. Yes.
You know, of rental, but, you know, to look at it and to be fair with how you treat people across the board. I mean, you look at the percentages of people that don't pay any personal property, they don't pay any real estate taxes, and then you got these other people that are basically keeping everybody else up, you know, and what they're having to expend. And I don't wanna, I'm just telling you, I don't wanna do anything as far as raise taxes unless we can look at ways of generating income. And I don't think we have done that in the past few years. I don't think we've worked hard enough, except trying to shut down what businesses we had an opportunity to get here. But I think we need to fight to try to get more business, more income, and help move these things along and partner up with the IDA. If we have this list of properties, I think we need to put them on the market pretty heavily and say, hey, look, you know, come to Russell County and we'll make you a real deal. I think it's time to work with these partners and people to bring these jobs in here. We had a lot of success there in the beginning. I know COVID slapped us around a little bit, but there's still businesses moving in and operating. I know the workforce right now is hard to find people to work, but I mean, it's a big concern, but we really need to try to jumpstart the economy and support these existing projects that we have on the books right now. and get these, whatever Russell County needs to do to finalize these deals with the Jonah project or whatever, we need to get it done.
And see, whatever number you,
everything on Jonah project we need to.
There is, there'll be something in June, that we have to do. It's not slowing down any progress, but it's something that has to be considered by the board. Some action taken, but, we moved forward with the agreement for T&L, so that's got that piece in place, so that those services will exist, and they'll be able to assist in the building inspection.
I keep hearing something about a tax incentive that we were supposed to have done. Haven't done yet.
that, the tax incentive was proposed. The tax incentive is in place like the performance agreements that the IDA does with companies that come in. They give them a tax break. It was 1.5 that Tazewell County had proposed. It was to be paid, the agreement was, I think, and Rebecca was there, 500,000 per year for 1.5 million. Now, we have got documentation, I think it was letter of support, or was it a resolution, Katie, from Tazewell County? But see, that's only a letter of support or a resolution. We have not received anything from Buchanan County, because you gotta remember that Project Jonah is a 3 BOS. One agrees, all three of us has gotta agree.
Well, I heard Tazewell and Buchanan already passed it. We're the only ones had it.
Chase sent me that, I requested it prior to, sending you all the report last time, what they did, and he apologized, he said he just missed my email, but he did get that from me, and so I'll be working on that for your consideration, but from when I spoke to him, he provided me a whole bunch of documents, it looked more like a letter as opposed to resolution, so I'm not sure if they ever, I'm not exactly sure what they did, but, I'll look through those documents to see, but I haven't gotten anything from Lee on that, but I can certainly ask if they passed that.
And see, one of the things you gotta realize on the tax incentive, it only is implemented or applicable after the facility's built and the people are in place working. So, yeah. So, have you checked with Lee? Have we talked to Lee with Buchanan County I have not seen the resolution. And y'all gotta remember, if you pass a resolution, the next board can do away with your resolutions. That's why we was trying to figure out something that was legally legal, for continuity.
I have not asked Lee for his, but I'll ask him to give that to me. I mean, I've got what Chase sent me, and that's what I'm gonna be using, cause Tazewell was the one that initially made, that was one of the considerations that they gave when it was gonna be located wholly in Tazewell County, and so when Chase brought that up to me, I asked him to send it to me, that way I could make it be as similar as what they had already promised.
Thank you, Katie.
We've talked about, losing revenue from different things, like Randy talked about buying property and, this, that, and the other. I know the Bush building, we were receiving taxes for that. But as we turn over to the Staves, outfit, we lost tax revenue, right? Dave Leonard, the cattle market, that was supposed to be a project materialized. It didn't. The Ford place with hemp, it's supposed to materialize, it didn't. Now this Russell County, manufacturer out here, I understand, it's bottom out, it's not gonna go anywhere. I understand they gonna tear the rest of that building down because the concrete floor is not good. So, I don't know, we lose revenue that way. It seemed like, I thought about, people wants to come in here for a tax break, but then they don't materialize, but we lose tax off the property that they don't like, they were gonna come in and, materialize on.
And that's a good point. And one of the things the IDA has done, and they work with me and Randy, that if a business comes in now, it don't get the big deal like Northrop Grumman or CGI does no longer. This board stopped. They don't get that 100% tax break for, 7 to 10 years. That don't happen anymore. So we do give them a tax break, but it's like a 50%, and we step it down to 10. That's it, quick and fast. So, but here is the thing. We gotta get the jobs in place, the building sold, get her this year over the hump. So the utility fee is a fee, so, and it is not a tax. So Katie, so therefore, you know, what that means legally from the advertisement perspective,
Well,
so.
you general public's gonna call it,
A
a
tax.
tax.
It's not a tax under the
They'll
code
call
of
it a
Virginia,
tax, they're
it's a
gonna tell you
fee.
will.
It is a fee.
Now that utility, that goes on every one of us, every citizen, right? Or just that 18% that you're talking
No,
about?
it goes on everybody in a residential, when you get a utility bill, and y'all can look at it this evening, when you pull it up, it's got a residential code on it, it'll say 01 or 02, and each utility company knows whether it's a barn or a light or a building or a business or a residential. They only code what we tell them to code for residential businesses and get that out of the way. And they get, you know, some of the businesses are gonna love this because I can tell you right now, they're paying higher than $6 a month. They're gonna love this. But it spreads the cost across that 80% that are paying for it currently of Russell County citizens. The other 20% are gonna have to pay their fair share, so it kind of dilutes the cost. But
Yeah, but it's still
Eight-
adding it to the ones that are already paying their fair share too.
it does.
It's not like it exempts them. If it left them out, that'd be different, but
Right.
it's not leaving them out. It's adding to their.
And that's what, and the board had proposed extending the hours and additional sites and better service to get up to these and a sticker. That way, it's only Russell County citizens, cause you all know, 7 counties touch Russell County borders. 7 counties, so we get trash from Buchanan County, Dickinson County, Scott County, I mean, keep going, yes. So, and that was one of the things that was proposed during this time, but that's at the Board of Supervisors. But here is pleasure to decide on the fee. But right now, we got $680,000 to $700,000, so we, you know, the line items that you do in discretionary, everything that y'all donate is only $26,000. So y'all, I mean, what are you going, I mean, it's gonna hard to be a pick out a line item that can take care of these kind of numbers. If you didn't, you would have to go through multiple ones. So,
Well, we've officially scratched that for the next 2 years, as far as I can see. And that's peanuts, I agree.
yeah,
That is peanuts
it's little,
compared to what's
26,000
happening here.
yes, yes, ma'am.
So tell me about the Budget Committee. Tell me about the race program. Alicia, can you speak to that for me? And you may not be able to, and I don't want to put you on the spot. But we're looking at, we started out with, the board was giving $75,000 to the college, which we all agree, we think it's a wonderful thing to educate our youth. But somehow it's exploded over here on this end. Can you explain that?
Well, it went up to about 300,000, is that correct, Alonzo?
Mike's not on.
Okay. It did start out at 75,000, but now it's up to about 300,000. I'm not for sure what expenses that was incurred there. More people, I guess, has enrolled than what they had originally told you guys that would enroll. Is that where the number increase had come from, Lonzo?
The increase is, and that's where I'm going to, just give me just a second to pull up the previous numbers.
I know when you started it was 75,000, I think, was the initial cost. And then over the years, it's just kept going up.
No, these are audited numbers. These are audited numbers.
G5 cut it in half.
It is. That G5 is applicable this year.
Yeah,
This
that's not
year.
that's not went in
Yep.
yet.
So here's the numbers on the race program. See, here's where it started off in the first year. It started off 273. These are actual expenditures audited. These 2 years are. That's why it was approved for this year. And see, yes, page 41.
Yeah, and when I said exploded, that's no pun intended here. That's the real deal. So, it was my understanding in 2019, when we voted this in, that we would support it to the tune of about 75, and it says right here in the first year of 19, 77,168. But then it went over here and it went Zoom way up there.
Well-
Now, I thought we were just obligating 75,000 or whatever we voted on in 2019, which I can't remember, but that was in my head. Help me out with that.
Okay. When the school proposed it to us, they took all the kids that were graduated to them, and I still got the document somewhere, and I can provide that to you. And, what they did, they took all the school children that, were graduating from all three high schools, and they looked at the ones that were eligible for Pell Grants, the ones that were getting scholarships, ones that were not going to go to Southwest. It was a wild formula, wasn't it, Tim? So they looked at it and they estimated that the first year cost would be 75,000. So that's, and I can provide that to you. So now, as the talk went on and more kids started participating, as you can see now, and it's running about 40,000 a semester. So the kids were going, and then when the pandemic hit, we thought it'd go down, but as you can see, now as these two numbers, 273, 441 in ending 20, and 275, 297 ending 21, those are audited numbers. Those are being audited and verified by the auditors. So Alicia will tell you. So what we had to start doing, we had to up the budget to take care of this, and that was not a problem in previous years till this inflation is hit and all these other things have hit now. So that's at the pleasure of the board. So these are the real numbers. And G3 will take down the cost, and I'm trying to get that from you.
Okay, so Air County, we voted to do the $75,000 or 77,169 or some kind of funky formula that we've got going on here for this. So what I'm about to say may not feel real good to everybody, but I am not in favor of adding to a fee or a tax on someone's power bill at this time in their life, because everybody is crippled. So I'm going to say that if we can't cut this budget down to zero if we have to, that's what we're going to have to do. That's my feelings. And I guess we don't have to come with that today, do we? Can we meet again, think about this, work it out, work the numbers? Because I'm not satisfied with adding a $5 or a $6 fee to my mother's power bill, or to my mother-in-law's power bill, or to any of these people's power bill out here, because it's hard to make a power bill. And American Electric Power is not cheap, by the way. I'm on Old Dominion, so I have a tiny bit better power bill than what the majority of the people in this county have. We tried to implement it before to be prepared for such a time as this.
Okay.
I'm just not there.
Now, what's before the Board of Supervisors today is the tax rate, not the budget. So let's separate that right real quick. So, and because the school has not presented the budget, that's one of the first things in the Code of Virginia. The school board must present to us, and they must advertise and all that. Who knows? In 2012, when we got the resolution, the state of Virginia done this. They didn't even set the budget until the middle of July. I think it was July, wasn't it, Tim? Yeah. So the budget, y'all gonna have to trust our numbers, and I know this is hard. It's hard while you're sitting here. And you may not get the budget until July or August. I mean, we don't know. So today you're setting the tax rates.
Yes, and I know we're hammering this.
And you got and you got $700,000 that we gotta figure.
Yes.
If you wanna keep the 5% increase, the rest of the line items are mandatory by law, so you have no choice on those. And the regional jail, if they bill you, you have to pay it by the structure code. I think that's kinda unfair, but it's in the agreement. It's in the contract. Whatever they bill for, we've gotta pay it. Or if they don't, they penalize me. They tried that once time before. Ask Alicia.
Well, I would like to say, I appreciate you, Randy and Alicia, for coming. I'm a little concerned, why the school system's not here in this meeting.
Because they're level funding. Theirs is taken care of. They don't need any additional funds.
How much over the required minimum?
If you take what is above the RL, required local effort, and the debt load, there's about $100,000 there, give or take. And now, that was last year, so that's all I can estimate on.
So we're at 200, looking for 200 then.
Oh, you know, you're at 680. You-
680. With the regional jail.
With the regional jail.
That regional jail, I'm about blowing that up. You only have 45.
So there's no easy fix here, and it may be, and I'm throwing this out here at the pleasure of the board, that, like I said, I may not walk out the door, but, you know, it may be a fee, and maybe a cut, maybe do both. I'm just throwing, y'all are asking for suggestions, and I'm trying to give you suggestions. But these numbers that we've got, and me and Alicia has sat and looked and sweated and lost sleep over, they're solid.
Yeah, that's all.
We just have to set tax rate.
Set the tax
We'll
rate.
just have to set tax rate at the current tax rate right now.
Cuts later.
Okay.
And we'll address either the cuts or the fees or tax, or, you know,
That's
it's
at
not
the
gonna be,
pleasure of the board.
it's not gonna be a real estate tax. Well, it seems to me that's the only thing we can do.
Well,
because we're in
once if you
disagreement
set the
about what
tax
we can
rates
do.
today, which you can
Yeah.
do, if it stays the same,
And I will make the motion that we, set the tax rates at the same rate as they are now for all of them, real estate, mobile home, personal
I'll
property,
second it.
machine tool,
Me too.
and merchant's capital.
Well, it just took us an hour and a half to get there, didn't it?
but y'all had to have all the information.
We
And the
needed to
public
have,
needed to hear this.
and
I mean,
so we
they've
need to
done
have
a wonderful
another-
job. I mean,
We-
we have.
okay, I have a motion and 2 seconds on the floor. Any further discussion within this board?
I would like to ask, if we do that, set the tax rate the same as was, how's that gonna help our shortfall on the,
We're gonna work on that.
We're gonna work
We're
on
gonna
it at
work
the
on that
next
in the
meeting.
With the
meantime.
budget. with
You're on the
budget.
budget committee, you gotta make us cuts, sir.
You need to tell us what you wanna do.
I've been very inactive, due to the
So-
state,
Do the state, we
the
hadn't.
state ain't doing anything, so we can't do it.
So that's okay.
You're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna do this.
We've all discussed freely
Get our elected officials.
about what we're doing. All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You
Tax
got a
rates are
tax
set.
rate.
You got a tax rate.
Thank you,
Commissioner.
guys.
Go do the books.
Thank you both for coming.
Thank you, Alicia. Now she can sleep.
You're not gonna sleep well,
Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors, members, do y'all have any more questions on the budget? I mean, I love talking numbers.
We
I
can't
wire
bring
Randy-
any-
I wire
We
Randy
We
and
can't bring
Alicia
anything
out.
else beyond the budget, can we?
It's tax,
No.
that's all you can talk.
Just tax.
You're it.
Okay.
It's the tax.
And, so while we're on this, we need to work on another work session. Is
Yeah.
that, amenable with everyone? So get your calendars out.
Well, I
Do,
thought.
we don't have to have a public hearing now, do we?
No.
No.
Okay.
No,
So,
for the budget.
well, that eliminates that issue at hand. Okay.
Yeah, see, you got a continued meeting on the 16th at 3 o'clock, so you can start to work the budget on it, yes. You got a workshop on the 16th at 3 o'clock, so you can start to work on these line items.
Is
3
that gonna
o'clock,
give
yes,
us
sir.
that's already a plan, so we don't have to plan anything
No, it's
between
already
now and the
advertised and done
16th?
and advertised, yes, ma'am.
So everyone is confident that we can reach an agreement to get us down to a budget of,
In a week.
all right.
The budget committee, make the recommendation to us.
I agree. I'm gonna ask the budget committee to come back with some heavy recommendations.
Heavy cuts.
Bring it.
The tax
That's
rate
what it's
says,
gonna
so you have to
take.
cut.
That's what it's gonna take. So make it happen. So make it happen.
It's gotta be big numbers.
Okay, any more from the board about the budget at all? Are we good to go? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I
So
make
moved.
that motion.
I got two, okay.
Second.
Thank you, got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry, Steve. See you on the 16th. 16th?